call to order this meeting of the Wendell Town Board of Commissioners. Good evening. Thank you all for being here. It's a rainy night. You still got out and came. We appreciate you being here. Thank you for that. We're going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight by Wendell Middle School student Jaden Crandall. Jaden, if you can come up to the podium. Jaden is one of the most hardworking and focused students in 6th grade. Every day when he comes to school, he is always prepared and ready for the day's tasks. He is incredibly resilient and respectful. He models for his classmates the correct way to speak to others, the appropriate way to ask questions, and is motivated to learn. He consistently exhibits leadership skills and always encourages others to do the right thing. Jaden is an outstanding definition of a student working to be successfully prepared for the future, and we look forward to his continued success. He exemplifies what it means to howl. This was sent to me tonight by your principal, so congratulations. We're very proud of you and what a hard worker you are. And I'm going to stand down and let you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay? Go.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our invocation tonight by the Wendell Council of Churches, we're going to hear from Errol Briggerman from Wendell Baptist Church. Thank you so much for being with us tonight, Errol.
A couple of announcements. We always have start off and know that the Methodist Church is pancake and sausage dinner this Friday night, all you can eat. We had a Red Cross drive Saturday to those, which has been one of our biggest successes with Red Cross. We also had a science fair for grade school, which one of our ladies brought in some folks, and that was really a success. We're going to try to do that one again. And last but not least, in March 14th, is our annual Wendell Baptist Church barbecue, chicken barbecue, from 11 till 3. And it's a fundraiser for missions and things that we do throughout the year and help our kids get to go to camp and that kind of thing. So anyhow, there'll be more information come out on that. So let us pray. Lord, thank you for this awesome day you've given us. Thank you for the rain, Lord. We sometimes regret that, but it's always needed and it's always appreciated. We just ask you, Lord, this evening as our councilman oversees the business of our city, that all the decisions that they have to make will honor you and honor our community. We are so proud of this community, and we just all in all of its growth and its maturity in you. For all these things we ask in your blessed name. Amen.
All right, do we have any adjustments of the agenda?
The regular agenda or the consent agenda?
Well, I think we need to amend it to make the committee assignments be. Okay. I think we need to do it now, yeah.
All right. I'd like to pull 3C out for discussion. Amendment to the Town of Wendell logo licensing agreement.
Okay, so you want 3C. The motion is to remove 3C from the consent agenda.
And place it under other business, yes.
Okay, so it'll become 7A, I guess. All right, so we have a motion to remove 3C from the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
I have another motion to add item 3F to the consent agenda, committee assignments for calendar year 2020.
Okay, so we're going to add committee assignments, the 2020 committee assignments to the consent agenda.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion to add the committee assignments to the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, and now do we have a motion to approve it as changed?
Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Okay. So the motion to approve it as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. We have no one signed up tonight for public comment. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Move into item 4, recognitions, reports, and presentations. Ms. Trimmer, can you come up to the podium, please? 4A is a recognition of Wendell Middle School teacher Burgundy Trimmer. Ms. Trimmer is a dedicated drama teacher with over 19 years of teaching experience. She has truly built a quality program that rivals that of what you might see in high school settings. Each year she directs 2 main stage productions, a fall play and a spring musical, in which after months of daily rehearsals, the kids run the final productions. The shows she has done at Wendell Middle School include 10 Ways to Survive the Zombie Apocalypse, Annie Jr., and then there was one spoof, Lion King Jr., and her most current production of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. She has also established the Wendell Middle School International Thespian Society Troupe, an honor society for students involved in theater and academics. This year, the Thespian Society members attended the second annual North Carolina Junior Thespian Festival in Greensboro, where they took a one-act play for adjudication and participated in workshops led by professionals. Because of their hard work, Ms. Trimmer, and dedication of Ms. Trimmer, drama is an important part of our school culture and community. It offers a place for kids to express themselves and be accepted for who they are. It helps students grow socially and become more confident in their writing and public speaking. Ms. Trimmer believes in students, and because of her strong belief and her incredible talents, she uncovers amazing talents in many of our students. Wendell would not be the incredible place that it is without her dedication and love for students and the arts. Thank you, Ms. Trimmer, for your love of learning and dedication to our community. That's very nice. That was sent by the principal. So that's very nice. We just wanted to have you here tonight and recognize you and all the wonderful things that you do for our students at Wendell Middle School. And thank you officially for that.
Try not to cry. My goodness. Thank you. I appreciate the recognition. I am so blessed with a staff that supports me and an administration that's very strong and is always there for me, and very talented kids. And I hope that you guys would come out and visit us, because we have a very talented pool of students, and our productions, I think, are top-notch. And just come out and see what we have to offer, because I think you'll be really impressed. We have a talent show Friday, and we're going to do Hairspray Junior in April. So I hope that you get a chance to come and visit us over at Wendell Middle School.
Well, I don't usually go on and on, but I have to say, it's absolutely been a pleasure to watch the change at Wendell Middle School that you've brought with the drama program. It's been like a breath of fresh air, so thank you for that. It's really been nice.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Right. Item 4B is the Wake County 2020 reappraisal results, and we're going to hear from Wake County Tax Administrator Marcus Kinraid.
Is this thing you've done this before? This one?
Reappraisal results. Yeah. Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. That was a very touching item, and now I'm up here to talk about property taxes. This is what I do. I appreciate the invite. I was here 4 years ago in 2016, the last time we did this, and we shortened the cycle after the 2016 reappraisal. So now here I am again in 2020. So I want to talk a little bit about what a reappraisal is and why we do it. It's the process of updating all real estate parcels in Wake County with fair market value as of January 1, 2020. Fair market value basically is the most probable price that a property would exchange hands in a open market transaction or a hypothetical sale. The last reappraisal was conducted for January 1, 2016. With an effective date of 1/1/2016. Following that, Wake County transitioned to a 4-year reappraisal cycle. So we perform a reappraisal because North Carolina general statutes state that every county in the state must do it at least once every 8 years. Of the 10 largest counties in North Carolina, only 2 remain on the 8-year cycle, Cumberland County and Buncombe County. Every other county has shortened the cycle to take some of the valuation sticker shock out of the process because most urban jurisdictions in North Carolina are such active markets. And it reestablishes equity and fairness in the property tax base. I'll show you some statistics later that shows that properties change in value drastically depending on where they are and what type of property it is. So when we're talking about the reappraisal for the county tax base as a whole, we're talking about 85% of the base. The other 15% of the base is already appraised annually. That would be cars, boats, aircraft, business personal property, and then public utility property like Duke Energy Progress, power lines, things like that. For the Wendell base, it's a little more heavy on real property. We're talking about 88% of your base here. For this particular project, this is the snapshot of our field activity versus what we did in the office. So we have a lot of new subdivisions in Wake County. They're similar. Many of them are quite similar. So we can conduct a lot of the reappraisal work on the newer neighborhoods from our office. So we inspected about 51,000 residential properties in the field. The rest we did from our office using our computers, our technology. We fly the county every year taking new aerial photography so we have fresh pictures every year. So we can do a lot of the work from our office to cut down on the expense of travel and things like that. In the more rural areas, we do get out and inspect those. There are fewer building permits in the rural areas. We're there less frequently, so we get out there to look at the condition of the properties. And then the commercial properties, we do like to get out and look at the vast majority of the commercials because they will be appealed, most likely. We have tried to drive down the per parcel cost of conducting these reappraisals. We've spent far less on contracts on a per parcel basis in 2020 than what we did in 2008 and 2016. The biggest savings was we did not bring in as many contract staff to supplement our staff. When we were on an 8-year cycle, we were only reappraising about half the time. The other half of the time, we didn't need additional help. So we would bring in contract staff, use their assistance, and then send them on their way. On the 4-year cycle, we're more or less always in reappraisal mode, so we have used far fewer contractors. So the cost per parcel on contracts is down about $5 for 2020. But we did add 11 staff over the last 4 years after we shortened the cycle. So that increased our cost for staffing full-time about $2.50 per parcel. We are still conducting this project cheaper on a per parcel basis than we did in 2016. What's this cost the town? We don't charge the town anything additional for doing a reappraisal. What we charge for our services is 0.2% of what we collect. So for the fiscal year 19 ended, we collected $2.93 million for the town, and we withheld $5,875 for our services. In 2013, the registered motor vehicle process transitioned from us to the DMV, and taxes were combined with renewal offers that are mailed out. The state collected $465,000 for the town, and they charge a 2.5% commission rate. The reason I show you this is I think our services are a pretty good bargain to the town. So overall, countywide, the average increase was 24% for this reappraisal, roughly 6% appreciation per year, driven 33% on commercial, 20% on residential. Here's a snapshot of the results of prior reappraisals, you can see that we were on an 8-year cycle, 92, 2000, 2008, 2016. The 92, the 2000, and 2008 reappraisals were in a quickly appreciating market similar to what we are now, and you can see the over 40% increases on that longer cycle. The 2016 reappraisal was a recovery from the recession, and so that's a sort of an anomaly here. And you can see the 24% change for 2020. The thing I like about this slide to stress is that the parcel count in Wake County in 28 years has doubled on residential. Well, overall, I'm sorry. On residential, it's tripled in 28 years. And that growth has certainly started to occur in Wendell for sure. For Wendell specific, on average, it outpaced the county results. 22% increase on residential, 40% increase on commercial, 26% overall, on average. Then if you want to compare that to other municipal jurisdictions in the county, here's a snapshot of others. Raleigh, Garner, Knightdale, Wendell, and Zebulon had the highest average increase on residential. What drove this residential increase? It was driven by properties valued less than $250,000. This is the price points for residential stratified by value range. And you can see that for properties valued less than $250,000, the average increase countywide was 31%. As you went up the value range, the increase decreased. There's far higher demand and limited supply of housing priced below $250,000 in Wake. For Wendell, the vast majority of the housing stock here is priced below $250,000, and that increased on average 30%. This was the results of the 2016 reappraisal, residential values on average, and how things shifted. As we recovered from the recession, the north, the east, and the southeast portions of the county had not recovered back to 2008 values. So there was actually decreases in those areas, in the blue, decreases in value on average. And there were slight increases to the southwest. So you can see the value shifted to the southwest. This is 2016. 4 years later, there is no blue. Everything is increasing, but the steepest increases in value that we've observed, again, are in Raleigh, Garner, Knightdale, Wendell, and Zebulon, jurisdictions that have the greater majority of housing stock less than $250,000 in value. On commercial, this hasn't really changed from 2016. Hotels and apartments continue to just boom in Wake County. Countywide, on the real property base, prior to being reappraised, the taxable value was roughly $131.3 billion in taxable value, 70% commercial, 68%, 70% residential, 30% commercial. After being reappraised, the value has increased roughly $31 billion, and 2% in tax burden has shifted off of residential to commercial. For Wendell, prior to being reappraised, the base was roughly 81% residential, 19% commercial, $690 million in taxable value. After being reappraised, 1% shifted off of residential to commercial, $867.7 million in taxable value. When you add in your vehicles, your personal property, and your public utilities, your tax base is over $1 billion. So with this shift, obviously, there may be those who could struggle with their tax bill. So North Carolina law allows tax relief under certain circumstances. It has to be uniformly administered by all 100 counties the same way. In North Carolina, it is age or disability and income based. So let me explain. The age limit is 65 or older. One person in the household must be 65. If no one is 65 but totally and permanently disabled, that qualifies too. And then the income for the household from all sources must be less than $31,000 for 2020. If they meet those qualifications, they can submit an application. By calling our office, we'll send them an application. The due date for the application is June 1st. If they qualify, we will reduce their value by 50% on their house and up to 1 acre of land. Okay? There's a slightly different flavor of this exclusion. It's called the circuit breaker deferment. So if someone's income is greater than $31,000 but less than $46,500, then there's no longer a value-based exclusion available, but there is an opportunity to stop the amount of tax they have to pay. So what we have to do is apply a factor to their income. Assume someone's income is $40,000. We would apply a 5% factor to that, or $2,000. They would be required to pay $2,000 in tax, and then any tax above that would be deferred. It's not excluded, it's deferred. When it's deferred, it's just like farm property. We have to track that value that's deferred. If the property is sold, they owe the tax on that value plus interest for the prior 3 years. This is a seldom used program in Wake County. In fact, only 26 people are currently in the program because it's really designed for extremely high value properties with very low income. Think beach lots or mountain view lots, things like that. There are few properties in Wake County where the owner has a high enough tax bill to benefit from this particular program. Then there's also an opportunity for veterans discharged under honorable conditions who are totally and permanently disabled from a service-connected incident. They can qualify for tax relief. The first $45,000 in value will be removed when we compute the tax bill. That's an exclusion. They never have to pay that back. Again, they have to apply for these things, and the due date for the application is June 1st, and they can call that number or go to that website. We'll be glad to help them. I did bring some customer service cards for you all in case you're out and about and any of your citizens have questions. It's got both our general call center number, and then it's two-sided. It's got our reappraisal call center number on the other side. I encourage you to give that to people so they can call us and get the facts. I'll give this to your clerk as I leave. The project schedule, we sent out the notices 2 weeks ago. We expected a 7% appeal rate, which would be about 28,000 appeals. So far, it's been very quiet. Very quiet. I've never seen it this quiet. This is the third one I've done, and it's surprising. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know what to make of it, but hopefully it continues. We are accepting informal appeals right now. It's a simple process where someone mails in the appeal form we sent to them, or they can go on our website and appeal online and work informally with our staff to see if there's any data errors or simple things that we can adjust to fix the value if it's wrong, or make people feel better about our opinion of value on their property. On March 2nd, our Board of Equalization and Review will begin accepting applications for more formal appeals, and they will adjourn from receiving appeals on May 28th. So the last day for someone to appeal is May 28th. Then, of course, the county and all of the municipal jurisdictions will go through their budget process this spring. You'll have to compute a revenue-neutral tax rate and publish that in your budget. You don't have to adopt it, but you do have to publish it. Keep in mind that revenue-neutral is not property-specific, it's budget-specific. So oftentimes when people see revenue-neutral, they think, well, that means my tax bill's not going to change. That's not what it means. It means that the budget process has to be transparent and tell the property owners what the neutral rate was. What their tax bill will be depends on the tax rate that's adopted and how much their property changed in value. With that, Mayor, I'll turn it over to you and then try to answer any questions you might have.
Well, thank you. Are there any questions from the board? Comments?
No, just appreciate you being here. I've gotten a couple light questions about it, but this is certainly more comprehensive than I've seen before, so I appreciate it.
Sure.
Could we get a copy of the PowerPoint? There were a couple charts in there I'm particularly interested in.
I'm running it off your system. You've already got it.
Okay. Could y'all email that to me? Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I was going to ask, because I was waiting to help you unquiet things up there, but if we give you the contact information and push that out for the folks that may want their stuff reappraised or re-looked at.
Will do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. All right, let's move to item 4C, Town of Wendell Interlocal Agreement with PEG Media Partners. And we're going to hear from the Media Partners Studio Director, Gary McConkey.
Thanks. Thank you. Seems like I end up at each town about once every 4 or 5 years to make some type of a presentation. We've been going for more than 10 years, and our contract has been revised every 3 or 4 years and extended every 3 years or so, and we're at a point where we really need to start over, and that's what we've done. So I think at your next meeting you're going to see or vote on, I guess, what the board has adopted. Our board, PEG Media Partners, owns East Wake Television, Wake Public TV, Garner TV, and Clayton TV. And so the board is made up of all of the town managers of those 7 towns that make up the partnership. East Wake Television is Nightdale, Roseville, Wendell, Zebulon, and Archer Lodge. And so that's what you're familiar with. And we provide all your equipment in here and the person that records your meetings and some other things that we do. So it's a partnership that benefits us both. The money for our operation comes 100% from the state of North Carolina. They get it from people who have satellite TV or cable TV and a 7% sales tax on video. So everybody that's got cable or satellite pays the 7%. It goes to the state. They take $4 million and divide it by all the PEG channels in the state, certified PEG channels. This year there was 148, and then we get 1 share for each of our channels and each of our partners. So we're getting 14 shares of that money. And we then use that to provide you equipment and have somebody come here and record your meetings and do all the other things that we're doing. In your package, you had a list of what those things are. That's updated for this meeting. Generally, the contract isn't significantly different than it has been in the past. It's just updated. You still have Mark as your board member on PEG Media Partnership. They make, well, they are the board. I am the staff, and Ben is the staff, and Amber is the staff, and Don Fuller, who does sports. That makes up all of our employees. We had 2 other employees. One went to Garner, one went to Clayton, and we pay part of their salaries. But there's really nothing significantly different in the contract that's being proposed. It's been reviewed over the last 2 years, actually, by a bunch of people. We've had town attorneys make some comments. We've adopted those comments, and we're ready to rock and roll for the next 6 years. 3 years on the contract with a 3-year extension. I am available if you have any questions about what we do or why we do it.
Any questions?
So we can't do without you because the money doesn't come to us, it goes to you. You can't get the money without us, so it's the perfect partnership. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, item 4D is the parking ordinance amendment presentation. We're going to hear from the town manager.
Thank you. I believe y'all have heard me speak a lot this week already, so I'll try and be brief on this, and maybe my voice will last also. This is an awareness presentation of an upcoming text amendment to the town code. The town of Wendell currently has existing code regarding the regulation of parking. It's a police power code in our general ordinances. It's not part of our development requirements. There's parking requirements in the development requirements. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the police power and enforcement of on-street parking that the police department enforces. New developments, much like Wendell Falls, have roads. These roads are dedicated for both public use, and then there's also like the back alleyways and commercial areas that are private roads and will remain private moving forward. As the publicly dedicated roads are conveyed to the town in the near future, the town accepts that maintenance responsibility, but we also accept enforcement on the roads from a police power standpoint, which includes parking. That also then becomes the need to provide consistent parking for our residents around the community as well as in that community. If you can think, there's private alleyways and streets that'll be enforced one way under restrictive covenants from the HOA, and then public streets that are enforced by the town. Our visitors and residents don't always know where those places start and stop, so there has to be some pre-thought about consistency of enforcement and how that happens. No actions requested tonight. It's just informational, as I mentioned before, and we'll come back in coordination with the request to accept dedication of those public roads, which is anticipated either the second meeting of February or soon thereafter. So let me talk about existing conditions right now. And I mentioned Wendell Falls has roads dedicated for both public and private use. They're in private maintenance and enforcement at this time, with the HOA being the responsible party for that maintenance and enforcement. The parking requirements right now limit greatly on-street parking. They primarily do enforcement through education and towing. They have a single company that does towing, and that company's contracted by the Homeowners Association. Their requirements do have exceptions in how they enforce those rules and allow residents to call in and obtain approval for exceptions. The reason I need to tell you about this is because these conditions are changing. As Newland completes the infrastructure improvements for those residential areas, and those they've been finishing final lifts of asphalt in some of the initial phases of residential development. With also the text amendment that planning brought before the board last spring, with the state law change about not having the full year of being able to monitor the streets, they can be turned over earlier to the towns. So that a lot of the streets out in Wendell Falls are ready to be turned over at this point for town maintenance and enforcement. When they do that, they'd be released, getting a release on their bonds for the residential. There'll still be residual bonds that cover stormwater improvements, but the road improvements will be released at that time. Once the town accepts the roads into our maintenance responsibility, we obviously will become responsible for both maintenance and enforcement, which includes parking. HOA enforcement tools will not include towing on public streets. There's not an ability of a private entity to tow on a public street. That's by statute a municipal operation. So conditions that are not changing with the acceptance, the physical condition and design of the roads. There's nothing that's magically widening the roads to make it okay to park on the roads out there. There's still narrow and constrained roads that limit access if there's vehicles parked on the roads for fire apparatus, public works, street cleaning, or solid waste vehicles. Those larger vehicles still have issues if people are parking on the road. So the need to still have limited parking access remains. Second, the restrictive covenants remain in place, and there's still other tools that HOAs have outside of towing that they'll be able to use to enforce their restrictive covenants. So there's nothing that changes that private legal contract between the homeowners that bought the property and amongst themselves and the HOA that governs that. So then the challenge for then making proposed changes moving forward on that code is to amend the ordinance in a manner that reflects those restrictive covenants, so that there's as seamless as possible in enforcement between public and private, that allows for a continuation of protecting where it's appropriate to park and not appropriate to park as designed in the community. The general principles behind that and equity of enforcement between the public and private. Citizen awareness. You don't want suddenly to be a big change and a great confusion in people that are out there. One day you're not being towed for something, the next day you are, or you're getting a ticket or not getting a ticket. So there's an ability to provide citizen awareness and avoid confusion. For our police department internally, the ability to enforce as consistently as possible across the jurisdiction is important. Our ability as officers transition from one neighborhood to another to know that how to enforce is important. One of the proposed changes with the crossover to municipal enforcement will be the ability already granted to the police department to use citation instead of towing as a tool. And so a resident then would not come back to find a car towed away, but might come back to find some form of education or parking citation instead. If you can imagine paying a parking citation and that going to the school system is one thing compared to coming home and your car not being there and not knowing what happened to your car. So it gives another level of enforcement beyond towing. Also, it's transferable to future phases as they get built, or other developments that want this type of enforcement. So it'll provide some flexibility in our code as to meet more modern development requirements and more urban design with tighter roads, like many of the developments that we're seeing submitted to the town at this time. So next steps be to finalize the text amendment, get that to Newland also to make sure that communication is finalized with the HOA. We've had previous meetings with them, and in our agreement and are in agreement with this intent. The details remain on reviewing the ordinance, and then bring back that text amendment to you, the commission, for consideration. Given the change in board and also the likelihood of this becoming a more real process in the next couple months is why I'm before you to present this tonight, and I'm available if you have any particular questions.
Any questions from the manager?
I'm very happy to see this. Parking enforcement on some of these tight residential streets is a concern. One thing that does concern me, and you did touch on it, which was the equity of enforcement between public and private. In these neighborhoods where the HOA has been doing enforcement and we're looking at taking it over, has the HOA actually been doing enforcement, and is there going to be a shock to people when they start getting parking tickets? The second part of that question is I understand there's education about where to park or whatever, but are no parking areas going to be marked, or is it just going to be a known you have to park on this side of the street? How's the marking going to be done, and how are we making sure that the HOA is doing the correct enforcement before this change so that there's not that shock?
Okay. Well, the HOA enforces the way they currently enforce. I do know that they do tow vehicles. I think two recently that I've heard of have been towed. So there is a towing of vehicles. There is an education through both social media and otherwise. All property owners receive their restrictive covenants, and I'm sure that competent realtors go through that, including the parking. As far as the posting of streets, any posting of streets will be per our general statute requirements, whether that's general signage throughout the development, or if it's some other overlay design, that would be left in the details of the ordinance. Open to suggestion on that at this point. From a general design standpoint, you try and balance a tremendous amount of sign clutter throughout your residential neighborhoods and streets versus the ability for people to understand when and when they cannot park on different streets. Nothing's changing from where people can park now to where they can or can't. With this change, it's basically a change in who's enforcing and trying to keep that as consistent as possible. Is that both, or did I just hit one?
That was pretty much both, but...
Okay.
Any other questions?
Just, so their towing company continues to manage their private property. How do we go about the towing process? If the town, once we begin enforcement, decides it, do you have an idea of how that would work?
Yeah, currently the town has a towing rotation that it uses, and so if you have a repeat offender, or if you have someone that's parking in a manner that creates a public safety concern, blocks a hydrant, is unobtainable and blocking public road or sidewalk intersections, those more extreme conditions tend to be your tows. And the town has an existing towing policy and rotation to work through. Ideally, anytime you have a change, is you have a period of time in which there's a public education period to put out the word and mail out what's changing, who your contact persons are, and so that there is that attempt at awareness. From an enforcement standpoint, you're real heavy on education in the first months after a change, which will likely be part of your presentation that you get within a month or two. When you're considering this is kind of that next step after adoption, how that gets implemented, and the chief will talk more about that at that time. But it's very typical for the community to work with the town, and the town work with the community to increase education awareness for a period of months until there's an understanding of how it works, so that you tend to get education before citation and lots of citation before towing, so that people have every opportunity to learn and conform to any adjustments or changes. Ideally, the ordinance change keeps it as consistent as possible to how it is now. Still trying to work through a couple challenges related to exceptions and holidays, so that we can enforce it equitably.
I thought the HOAs took care of all that, so they don't do roads anymore once we take it over. They just do pools and grass and parks. That's all they take care of.
Well, if it's a privately dedicated road, then they would remain the maintenance and enforcement entity. Any road on a recorded plat in a subdivision that is a publicly dedicated road, once it's accepted into the public road system, if it's a town road, a local road, the town would accept that maintenance and enforcement responsibility. If it's a state road, the state also has a process to accept state roads into their maintenance responsibility. These roads would be local roads in Wendell Falls.
There has been sufficient enforcement up until this point, so I can imagine that the transition period should be a small. Everybody's aware of it.
This is a topic that is a frequent flyer for the Wendell Falls community at their HOA annual meetings and regular conversations of residents. So there's not a surprise about enforcement or where people can park or not park. But we do want to make an awareness when that change between private road and accepted publicly maintained road happens. It also means that our police officers can be more active on those streets and enforcing state driving requirements. That there are resident concerns regarding speed and safety of people traveling through those neighborhoods, and this gives, once those roads do come over to public maintenance, that also allows us to be more proactive in our enforcement on those roads.
But pretty much where you can and can't park, all that's going to stay the same for the other than the holiday, that unique situation that you still have to work out.
Yeah.
It's just what's going to happen to you if you break the ordinance. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, are there any other questions? All right, let's move to 4E, our special events policy presentation. We're going to hear from Assistant to the Manager, Stephanie Smith. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm here to go over some recent revisions to the special event application process. We have modified the process to create a more user-friendly application process for those hosting public events in town. Forms and information that previously were located on multiple pages throughout the website are going to be relocated to one place, allowing for easier access for applicants. This policy also includes a co-sponsorship application, which is a new process that will formalize the partnerships that the town has with other organizations when collaborating on special events. An example of this would be Harvest Festival, where the chamber is the host of the event, but the town provides support in staffing and resources. So it allows the town to receive recognition when those partnerships are enacted for an event, And it gives a clear understanding of which organization is responsible for each aspect of event, so how different features of the event are being covered. This procedure also improves the internal process of special event review, where it becomes a more collaborative effort. Applications will be processed through the admin department to ensure all appropriate departments are consulted when determining approval for a proposed event. It also allows every department to have the same level of information and notification, so everyone can do what they need to do to have a successful and safe event for the community. We feel these changes will improve the overall application process and will streamline the internal review process for events as well. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank goodness. Thank you for that. Any questions or comments?
If I may just thank staff. Stephanie and Megan spent a lot of time, both in the communication plan and Stephanie with the special event policy, working with the departments and department heads to understand how the process has worked to help coordinate this. And this is one of your strategic plan initiatives as well, to update this process. Moving yet another initiative of the commission forward.
Good to see. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, item 4F, snapshot reports.
In the name of brevity tonight, if I'm available if you have any questions now or after the meeting at any point. A couple months of information there to catch up on. Most of the strategic plan update I gave you prior.
Does anyone have any questions for the manager?
Revenues are tracking well. According to the finance director, expenses are tracking at expected levels. No big surprises at this point from a finance standpoint.
The only thing I see, we could get a follow-up to the discussion from this weekend about CIT officers and CIT training and other ways of attacking, getting more of our guys through that process.
We'll provide you that update.
Thank you, sir.
Well, let's move on then, if there are no other questions. We have no public hearing scheduled for tonight, so we'll move into our administrative items. Item 6A is the approval of a resolution authorizing Wake County Housing Authority to finance work on Crestfield Apartments. We're going to hear from Planning Director David Bergmark.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the board. As stated, this is a request that came through Volunteers of America for this board to authorize the use of housing revenue bonds or tax credits through the Wake County program to fund renovations to the Crestfield Apartments. You have a resolution attached for acceptance if you're so willing. So the Crestfield Apartments is located at 701 Marshburn Road. It's a HUD project that was built in 1985, comprised of 40 one-bedroom apartment units for senior housing. All of those rental units are project-based Section 8 rental assistance and have had a very high occupancy rate, over 99%. The National Housing Corporation began managing this property for a hold period for approximately a year and a half to allow for an application of the tax credit financing. So the rehab involves new roof, HVAC, flooring, improvements to the kitchens, bathrooms, as well as ADA improvements around the site. But in order to permit the financing of these improvements through the use of the housing revenue bonds from Wake County, the applicant has stated that they need an authorization from this board for our board to approve that attached resolution. These units are already subsidized, have been for a long time, to serve as affordable housing units. So this proposed housing revenue bond would maintain that status while allowing for improvements on the site. We do have a representative, if there's any questions more related to the legal or financing framework of this present, Kirsten Kirby. So I may direct questions to her if you have them, but.
Okay. All right, does anyone have any questions for Mr. Burmark? Yes.
Is this gonna be the same type of upgrade that happened at Alexander Place?
I believe it'd be similar, but I don't know. So there's, I mean, it's all internal, so it's some external, some internal, there's no additions, so I think it'd be a very similar situation to that.
Okay. The apartments, at Alexander Place were in similar shape, and that has definitely been brought up. It's much nicer, for the residents and for everybody in town. The Crestfield apartments, I can tell you, they're definitely showing their wear. A lot of them have, homemade ramps out front to get over those stoops and things, and so I think a lot of these ADA improvements and upgrading a lot of those apartments that a lot of them hadn't seen any renovations since they were built in '85.
And the access.
Definitely showing their wear, and I think this would be a great thing for those apartments to bring them into the modern times, so.
Yeah, the access into the units was specifically referenced, so I know that's definitely one of them. And the bond amount in the resolution is, an amount not to exceed almost $5 million, so it's a substantial, they're not minor improvements they're making, so it should really help that property a lot.
Significant.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Mayor, I would just point out for your comfort level that there is no financial commitment or obligation on these bonds. It's a legal prerequisite because they're in your jurisdiction. But if you'll note paragraph 2 of the resolution, it clearly says it's not on the hook for any of that.
Right. We're just a minor step along the way for this to happen.
Just a check in the box.
Right. Okay, any other questions or comments?
David, just, how did we come about this? I'm assuming they approached us.
Yeah, and it was fairly recently. Don Brown with Volunteers of America reached out initially to one of my staff members and said they needed a type of board approval for this project. So then we questioned, well, what exactly does that mean? So they had their team kind of put together this draft resolution so we knew what they were really asking for our board to do, and I think they tried to make it as clear as possible, and we reached out to county staff as well, and that's how it came before you.
Yeah, I was going to offer that if we knew how to make this happen over and over again, that'd be a great thing, and I think it's, as Commissioner Boyd said, some needed upgrades, and certainly I like the fact that it's going to be done with the residents in place.
I can definitely communicate that back to the applicant.
I would point out that the new Wake County Housing Department is keeping better data of when the old bonds and projects are expiring and encouraging these applications to reinvest in the affordable housing units that exist already to maintain that housing stock and a better quality for its residents. So I think, to your point, Councilman, that is expected moving forward to happen a little more often, hopefully improve your residents' quality of life.
Routinely.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, that's a good word, thank you.
Yeah. All right, we need a motion.
Motion to approve the resolution authorizing Wake County Housing Authority to finance work on the Crestfield Apartments through the issuance of multifamily housing revenue bonds.
All right, we have a motion authorizing, I'm going to word it differently because I'm reading it from a different spot, but authorizing the financing of the Housing Authority of the County of Wake of an affordable multifamily housing development within the boundaries of the town of Wendell. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. right, other business. When we adjusted the agenda, we moved item 3C here, so let's go to item 3C.
I could ask the assistant to the manager to come forward. So if the board has any discussion or questions about the item that staff can address, be glad to do so at this point. The format's much like an item on number 6. It becomes basically an item for discussion and decision. So if you need any clarification about what the proposed policy change does from staff's available to answer those questions. If y'all just had a point that you wanted to start discussion and you were clear and didn't need anything from staff, then you're welcome to go discussion. At any point you want to make a motion to either approve, deny, or some other action of staff, then we're at your pleasure.
We're fine. I think there were just some questions about it. So who had some questions?
So Stephanie, the only change in the policy is what I see in red, which is the exemption for operating and selling approved items in the DMX. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So besides that, it's the exact same policy that we voted for one last week on?
Correct.
Okay. That's the only question I have.
I have a question about the logo itself. We spent money to have the logo done. We have protected our interest in the logo, I assume. I don't know if that involves processing a trademark or, can you just discuss a little bit, time, money, and effort that has gone into this?
Sure. So those actions were before my time.
Okay.
So I don't have specific data, but, effort was made to design the logo. And then there was a process to trademark the logo. And my understanding is it's a relatively extensive paperwork and I believe financial investment to trademark a logo. So that work was done previously.
Okay. Well, for discussion purposes, I'll just say that I've talked with business owners in downtown, outside of downtown. Yeah, my thought on this is the town owns the logo, and I don't think anyone has an issue that I can see that if you're using our property and you're selling a product, then obviously we have a say in how and who represents that, but we should be entitled to some sort of compensation if you're going to be selling something with that logo. So, again, our time, money, and effort is put into it. And the way I read the policy, it does not stop anyone from promoting our town. Is that correct?
Correct.
It doesn't stop anyone from sharing our logo in any way. You still have to obtain permission to use it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we go into a whole different arena when we use the logo for sale of goods that somebody is making money off of. So, again, we voted on it last time. I'm okay with leaving it the same. I don't feel like we should separate or exclude or change it. And that's my thought.
All right. Any other thoughts, comments?
I'd echo those, just that this policy was just put into place in the last meeting. We trademarked this. This is not an economic development issue. This isn't it's a very specific logo. That's why it's so detailed. And yeah, you pay to use the name of the brand. If you're going to use the logo, it's normal practice. And I don't see we're giving an exemption to a specific entity or a couple of entities. Benefits us. I think it's simpler on everyone involved if it's a clean, clear process. I thought staff brought a really good logo use policy I've liked the policy up to this point, and it seems like now that we've got a policy, we're gonna start taking it apart, before we've yet to, let the ink dry.
I had just a couple thoughts that I'll share. Just originally I didn't have any problems with the original proposal. I aligned my thoughts with Commissioner Deloach that if we're using a town property that we've worked to trademark and to perfect and to get to where we like it, then some sort of fee should be required. I don't think that sounded too much. I'm a person who always feels like there could be an exception to any rule that comes up. And reading the logo that was here, I don't have a problem with us as a board sitting back and saying that this could be seen as an exception and that we could, as a board, choose to waive those fees. I don't have that problem. I didn't like the wording. I didn't like it because to me it sounds like exemption from fees will be granted to licensees operating and selling approved items in downtown DMX district. To me, that sounds like it's going to be a given right. I wouldn't allow that. I also wouldn't restrict businesses in the DMX district. I don't think a business in downtown will be any different than a business, somewhere else located in town. If it's something that we're wanting to put in there and as a board have a right to have some control over, that's fine, but I would open up to the whole town. And I would allow the board to have the say-so in that. However, I will say this, as a human being, if I'm approving whether or not to waive fees for somebody, to me, you'd have to show me that the fee waiver is something that is almost, I don't say necessity, but is a important thing for you as far as maintaining the success of your business. At that point, I feel like that gets into learning businesses, bookkeeping and the business of the business, which as a business owner, I would not want to divulge to a public property just an open session. Some people may not care. I would not want to do that. So I guess in all this jibber jabber I'm doing here, if we want to include this in here, that's fine. I would just make it be more of the board's discretion, and I would open it to the whole town, and I think that would check a couple boxes, and if as a board we want to yay or nay on it from that point, that's fine. That's my only thought on that.
What was the reason for choosing the downtown? Well, how did that develop?
How did that get in there?
It's in the email.
I look at existing board policy, and there's a policy to have a vibrant, economically diverse downtown. We're investing in sense of place downtown with the event and parking space, farmers markets, special events. So there's clear policy to, well, I'd also point out the facade grant. There's already incentives provided to downtown businesses that aren't provided to businesses outside of downtown. So there's past policy decisions to try and incorporate downtown as a sense of place attraction. And so if a downtown business wants to, on their own, invest in a plan to market the town that includes the use of a logo, then if they come and submit to the board and provide a product line that's approvable by the town, that still has to be approved by the town, that there isn't a cost to that. It's kind of a downtown place kind of thing. If that's not consistent with policy, that's y'all's leisure, and glad to, your pleasure, and glad to adjust as you see fit. That was the staff discussion on how you got to this point.
I think what everything you just said does fit, and I think it's the reason why this should just stay as it is. No other area of town gets events literally thrown in their front yard, bringing people directly to it, consistent events down beside it. We do a lot in the DMX, and I don't see the large economic benefit to Commissioner Lutz's comment, like, this isn't a break the books kind of thing. I don't think this is a huge part of anyone's market. And there's certainly, I just don't see where it's good.
I think if the businesses want to promote Wendell, that's great, and no charge.
Well, I'm not
Us
talking
over
about
like-
promoting Wendell, because, I mean, the chamber does that with a logo. 41 North does that by putting Wendell underneath their logo. The general store has Wendell in its name. There's a lot of ways to push Wendell without having to use our trademark seal that's going to be on our branding and our documents. I certainly...
We don't sell it anywhere, though. We don't sell the logo, so.
Well, it's...
We're not in business to sell logos, so it seems like a waste of time, but anyway.
It's an even bigger reason not to sell it to anybody, but I just, if we're going to get into the business of it, I don't see any point in, let's make it clean and...
Don't charge anyone.
I'm fine with the policy as written, as we voted on 2 weeks ago.
I second that and make a motion to that effect. Make a motion that we remove this item from the agenda.
Do we not-
Is this the proposed policy that you like an up or down vote on, Mr. Manager?
Don't we not need an up or down vote? We can't just take it off the agenda.
When I make a motion to deny the policy as written. And
To deny the amendment, I guess.
The amendment,
the policy's already in place. We voted on that last week. The only thing we'd be voting on tonight is that one string of red text.
And if you don't like that proposed amendment, no vote's necessary.
so you just don't, we can do that.
No action.
Okay, that's what I was asking. Okay, thank you.
Withdraw your motion.
And you can take action, but it's not really necessary. If you're not making a change, you don't have to take any action.
Okay, that's what I was asking. Thank you. All right. Let's move into our updates on boards by board committees. We'll start with, actually, I don't think I have any tonight. There aren't any. Okay, never mind. Commissioner's report. Start with Commissioner Joyner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to reemphasize that if you happen to catch this part of the meeting and you didn't catch the earlier part of the meeting about reevaluations, go on Wake County's website and take a look. They have a lot of the information that we saw tonight up on their website. It's a good way to learn whether or not maybe you should ask whether you feel like your reassessment rate is correct. It is certainly a process that is going to move quickly. As I said, May 28th is the last date to ask for a revow or a reconsideration. So I want to highlight that for you. Also, want to thank town staff and my fellow commissioners and mayor for a good retreat Saturday. Felt like it was productive and that we are moving in the right direction. And the other piece that I want to speak on, partially because of emails I got to my town email account since our last meeting, some of which we've discussed tonight. Every decision is not the end of the world, and I think that we can look around at the news and feel that everything is directly intended to have a certain outcome that is going to decide some sort of bigger fate. Sometimes decisions are just the course of making decisions and moving forward. And it's important for us collectively as a group and us collectively as a town to work together and continue to move forward on each of those decisions, because as you can see from some of the development maps, and as you can see from the tax reval, and as you can see from our strategic initiatives, and as you can see from the special use events or the special use plan, we're getting ready to do everything at a speed twice as what we've ever done before. And we're going to have to be able to work together in a cohesive fashion where you can agree and disagree and move forward, because it's coming. And we had to be prepared both to keep up with the pace, but also to be able to deal with all the issues, and you can't separate those two. And the Methodists are having an all-you-can-eat pancake contest. It's not really a contest, but I'm thinking maybe we can make it one. And Commissioner Lutz and Commissioner Deloach will pick up on that.
Commissioner Boyette?
I'll only add to the comments that if you feel like the decisions being made are important, reach out. All of us have email, phone numbers posted. Bug us. If there's something that you feel strongly about, I encourage people to contact us. And people have been contacting. And also, I thought the board retreat went very well. I thought we worked through a whole lot of things that were very beneficial. Basically, I look forward, and I know Commissioner Joyner does, getting into the meat of the budget with budget season coming up. So it's gonna be a busy time here. And go Pack.
Commissioner Tarnasky?
Yes. I'd like to thank Mark and everyone for setting up the retreat, and really enjoyed the tour of their new building, the new town hall in Garner, for maybe a future town hall in Wendell, and just getting the idea of what they put into it and what mistakes they made and what they would do differently. So, for the future, thanks.
Okay. Commissioner Lutz?
Just two things. I'm going to say one thing is going back to the reappraisal discussion earlier. One thing that I was seeing was a trend, and that I spoke to this back before the holidays, was that here in Wendell we have land, which is an important asset to us, and it's our most important asset we have. And if we saw that map where growth had gone from the western side of the county over to the eastern side of the county, and that's just where we're in the hotbed of activity now. And I still would urge us all as a board, is when we have these development proposals that come before us, to take the time to look at these proposals and to make sure that while we're using them for this land, is it really a good use for this town. They made a comment that the reason we had such an increase, or the area that had the greatest increase, was these homes 250,000 below, which is an area that I fall into, but it's it's also, it speaks to the fact that we don't have a lot of diversity in this town, and this was an area that increased the most, and this is why our town increased the most. So I still feel like diversity in this town for housing is important, and that doesn't always mean, extreme just means diversity means different stuff, and we have a chance with land and having open space and having development coming to have some say so at times, and when we can, I'd like us to make sure we try to speak our minds and really have some thought on things, not just approve things because they seem like an okay thing. And then on another note, just as a reminder or as an announcement here, February the 18th, the Wendell Rotary Club will be having hosting the State of the Town address, which we've done for about 3 or 4 years now. We've typically hosted it at lunchtime at the Country Club. Due to the support we've had over the past 4 years, we now have to move that out of that small space, and we're going to have it here in the commissioner room where we're sitting now. So February 18th, 7 o'clock, we'll get to hear from our mayor on the happenings of the past year and the vision for the future. And so I encourage everybody to come out, pack the house. It should be a good event. Thank you.
Commissioner Deloach?
I see what you did there. Pack the house.
No, not intentional. Not intentional.
Shout out.
No, just a slip.
I'll echo the same. I want to thank town staff. Retreat this weekend was great. I want to thank the mayor of Garner, assistant town manager. They were very accommodating, so we appreciate them opening the doors to us. This coming Thursday, Chamber of Commerce has their annual banquet, in which it's moved this year to January, but and the mayor may speak on this, but she'll be handing out the mayor's award. And the chamber gives out various other awards, so I would encourage you to be there for that. Again, it's Thursday evening. It'll be more of a progressive type event this year. We're going to start out at 3rd Street Social and then move over to Grill Billy's. So if you need tickets, contact the chamber right next door. And again, we've talked about it numerous times. Wendell, pancake and sausage, all you can eat. 5 to 7 this Friday. So, thank you.
Very quickly, I want to welcome the new football coach at East Wake High School. His name is Coach Dilton Cotton. He comes with tons of credentials and lots of wins under his belt. So we're very excited to have him, and can't wait to see what he does with the football team at East Wake High School. I also want to congratulate Wendell Creative Arts and Science Magnet Elementary School. They were named a Magnet School of Excellence this past week. That's outstanding, a tremendous accomplishment. It's a wonderful school. If you haven't been, I urge you to go check it out. The Meet on Main board meeting is going to take place tomorrow night. I believe I told y'all Wednesday, and I noticed on my calendar it's actually Tuesday. They're going to be rolling out soon a schedule and plans for this year, and that's very exciting. We had a great event previously, kickoff event, and got some great things planned for this coming year. And just real quickly, we held our organizational retreat this past Saturday, spent a little over half the day just talking and planning and working through some things that we needed to, making some decisions. The board all selected committee assignments. We had a lot of things that we took care of, and it was a good meeting. We appreciate Garner. They were very lovely hosts to us for the day. And I also want to thank the manager and town staff, Stephanie and Megan. It was very nice. They had a lot of snacks there to keep everybody awake, and perky, and lunch and that kind of thing. It was very nice. So thank you for that. All right, I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, we're adjourned.